Okay. Is it recording?
Yep, it's
Okay, good.
recording.
Usually I hear recording in progress, but maybe it's because
Yeah.
I was the one who pressed it. Okay. So welcome officially. We are at the TESOL Intercultural Communication intersection. My name is Nicole McVeigh, and I am the current chair of this interest section. And I am happy to be here with you all today. I just want to share with you just some information about our intersection. Um, so who we are an intersection within TESOL International, and we are professionals who seek to advance intercultural understanding through communication and English language education. We have our mission to cultivate a critical and reflective discussion on cultural studies and interculturality within English language teaching and learning. We do this throughout the year where we host practice-focused webinars, informal coffee hours, academic panels, lightning talks, our newsletters, and a lot more interaction through our My TESOL section on the TESOL site. So how do you join the interest section of intercultural communication? First, in order to do that, you must be a member of TESOL International to be a part of the ICIS intersection. And then you could be a part of the My TESOL portal. However, you do not have to be a member of TESOL to be a part of our webinar series. You could follow us on social media through Facebook, through LinkedIn, through X, and through YouTube. We will be posting this video on YouTube later for you to share and be able to watch again. We also have another way that we like to share our ideas on intercultural communication, and that is through our newsletter. You do not need to be a member to submit articles of our newsletter, and we are going to be, I guess this is our special issue, I guess you'd call it, in the late fall, and this will be centered around lesson plans. We all have great ideas on how we incorporate intercultural communication through our lessons. And this next session, will be focused on our way that we do lessons in our classrooms. So if you have an idea, feel free to share with us, and hopefully we'll get it posted into that issue. Okay. So today we have the honor of having Dr. Jepri Ali Saiful. And I have my cheat sheet here. Dr. Jepri Ali Saiful is an assistant professor at the Department of English Education in the Faculty of Teacher Training and Education at Muhammadiyah University of Surabaya in Indonesia. His research interests include Eco-ELT, which stands for Ecological English Language Teaching, ecolinguistics, ecocriticism, ecocritical literacy, and teacher cognition and professional development. He serves as an active professional member of trusted national and global ELT associations, such as TESOL International Association, Asia TEFL, and TEFLN, which is the Association for the Teaching of English as a Foreign Language in Indonesia. He also serves as an editorial board and reviewer of national and international reputable journals in the fields of ELT and education, such as Studies in Second Language Learning and Teaching, Cambridge Educational Research Journal, the Asia Pacific Education Researcher and International Review of Research in Open and Distributed Learning. He also has national and international teaching experiences as an English teacher in K-12 settings in Taiwan and Indonesia, and he has been engaged in environmentalism for more than 13 years. We are happy to have you here, and what we are going to be doing is Dr. Saiful will be speaking, and there will be time afterwards for some questions. If you do have questions, I encourage you to put them into the chat, and we will be monitoring the chat as well. So without further ado, I would like to invite Dr. Saiful to speak. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Nicole, and hi, everyone. And a very good morning, afternoon, and even evening, yeah, across the globe, because in Indonesia, it's now evening at 8 p.m. Okay, just yesterday, I had a meeting with Cambridge University, like around 11 p.m. regarding the journal submission and so on. Anyway, so let me share the screen. And am I audible enough? Yeah, okay, lovely. All right, so let's get a move on. So the topic for our discussion or talk today is about creating language classrooms. So eco-critical awareness meets intercultural communication. So this idea is very fresh, and I'm so excited to talk about this because I'm really into eco-critical awareness or environmental education or education for sustainable development because my doctoral dissertations or expertise are in environmentalism in education. And this is a very new for me to really bridge the two fields or two areas of study, which is the first one is intercultural communication, and the second one is environmentalism. And let's dig into it. And I will invite you to this new journey of conversations. And I really welcome any kinds of thoughts, feedbacks later on. And let's grow this kind of conversation into rich conversation. So yeah, first thing first, I've already introduced by Nicole, amazingly, wonderful introductions, and thank you so much for that. And yeah, my research expertise revolve around eco-ELT, eco-critical thinking, and eco-critical literacy. And then in relation to sustainable development goals, my research revolves around 4 goals. So specifically quality education, climate change, life below water, and also the last one is life on land. So my research always goes to this kind of sustainable development goals, and whether it is in language teaching or in education in general. Yeah, I've been engaged to this personal and professional environmentalism since I was in high school, like maybe 10 years ago. So yeah, and then right now, I've been doing a lot of environmentalism in education activities. So you can see, like lately, I'm the author or even the inventor of Eco-ELT concept, which is Ecological English Language Teaching. And if you know this kind of community, so I would like to introduce to you all. So this is ecocriticism community, global ecocriticism community, specifically devoted to study of empirical ecocriticism, which is in relations to like social sciences and ecocritical literary works and how it relates to that. And this is my community, guys. So if you want to join this community are growing, which is Eco-ELT. So we are here are scholars, English teachers across the globe who are concerned with environment and interested in environmentalism in English language teaching. Yeah, and so on and so forth. Let's begin to this talk. So I would like to focus this talk into 2 questions. So the first one is, in what ways does intercultural communication intersect with environmentalism? The second question is how we can foster students' eco-critical awareness in intercultural communication settings within the context of language education. I would like to invite everyone to these current situations or precarious situations of our Earth. So this is the scene of current geological epoch of our Earth, that in the past, like maybe 800,000 years ago, we lived in a green color of Earth, which is safe operating space for us to live. But right now, we are moving toward high risk zone, which is dark purple. What does it mean? It means that we are in a very precarious situations that it is not safe for us, for our friends, animals, and plants to live because of the weather, because of the temperature is getting warmer and hotter. And that creates tremendous hazardous weather events, and also kind of earthquake or another environmental crisis or problems are occurring because of this temperature, high temperature. And this creates tremendous kind of environmental problems like forest fire, and then like floods and so on. So this is what is happening in our Earth. So I would like to invite attention for everyone so that we can know and aware that we are living in very precarious situations, that we do not know what is happening in our life tomorrow with the situations of our Earth right now. And then what is the root? Yeah, what is the root of this environmental crisis, this ecological crisis? This is like the one of the top article when it comes to studying the historical roots of ecological crisis, and this published in Science Journal. So there is in a journal, Science Journal, there are two journals that are top journals. The first one is Nature, and the second one is Science Journal. So this journal, especially this article, demonstrate a very interesting finding that in the past, what is actually the roots of ecological crisis that bring to the current situations of environmentalism, which is environmental problems. So this is what they, or what White tell in the paper. So in the past, in the medieval view of man and nature, in the medieval era, that human actually us think that we are the master of nature, and then nature are their servant. So we have anthropocentric worldviews and attitudes that, okay, we are born in the human, and then I'm the man, I'm the master, and then animals and plants are my servants. So that's why I can use whatever I wanted. I can destroy as long as they are of significance for the human well-being and interest or wealth, actually. So this worldview, this thinking, so that affect our attitudes, our actions. What we think, what we believe, what we know will influence what we do. So actually our doing or our action is the manifestation of what we think, what we believe. So that's why White say that what people do about their ecology depends on what they think about themselves in relation to things around them, which is the human ecology is deeply conditioned by the beliefs about our nature and destiny. So if we think that nature is not important, if we think that nature is our servant, then okay, they should serve us. And I can take many things from the nature. These come from our anthropocentric worldview. And this is the root of ecological problems. And that's why in 2018, there is a movement to reconnect for humans with nature. So there is a detachment, actually, detachment between nature and human, and that's create kind of environmental problems because we are not connected with nature. If we feel a part of the nature, then we have have a strong tendency that we do not harm the nature because we think that, okay, nature is a part of me. Nature is a part of my community. Friends and animals and friends are a part of our ecosystem. We live together. We shared together this ecosystem that we need to really reconnect them, really acknowledge them so that we can build a good harmony and balance of the nature. So that's why this article, which is from Ives and et al., really need, really justify and invite all of us to really connect with nature. So this is actually one of the solutions that from the environmental, to address environmental crisis. And this is the nature connection interventions that what we can do to really, to really address the systemic environmental problems that is happening, because environmental problems does not necessarily caused by only social problems, but also politicals, but also from economic problems. And then all are connected, interconnected to cause environmental problems. So we need to address the system inequalities of environmental justice. And this is what is interesting in the article, that in order for us to really address the environmental problems, we need to go from the material to the philosophical interventions. What is material? Material meaning that we use the nature, and then experiential is we connect with nature by direct connections with the nature. We go to the forest, we go to the park. And then cognitive meaning that we develop our awareness, knowledge, attitudes to the nature. Feeling meaning that we need to develop our feeling of attachment, empathy to nature. And what is interesting in the philosophical point, which is really can bring deep connection to nature to address environmental problems. What is in the philosophical point? Perspective or worldview on what nature is, what is matters, and how humans ought to interact with nature, whether human thinks that they are master and the nature is kind of like their servant, or they think that human as a steward. So this philosophical can bring deep connection to the nature so that we have a very strong connection with the nature and we think that nature is a part of us. Then simple question is there any nature in your body? Of course. Is there any kind of nature-made being in our body? Water. Is there any water in our body? Is water a part of nature? Yes. Oxygen is also a part of nature, but it is inside our body. So we need to really think, we need to really have this consciousness that nature is actually a part of us. What is going to happen if there is no water in our body? If there is no oxygen in our body? So if there is no tree, if there is no water in our earth, so we'll not live. This consciousness need to be really have for ourselves as humans, that we are actually a part of the nature. And that's why Nature Journal in 2020-23 published a very good article, a very profound article on diverse values of nature for sustainability. So it collected 50,000 articles across the globe related to values, related to beliefs about nature. It demonstrates how significant or how paramount this topic of valuation to nature, as it can serve as a platform to address environmental problems. Because again, as I mentioned earlier, that ecological roots of the problems is based on what we think, what we believe, what we value of the nature. So that's why in this article, you can see that this article actually provides us into a typology of the values of the nature. So we live in the diverse valuations of the nature. Some people think that, okay, nature as the servant. Some people think that, no, nature is actually our friends. And some people think that, okay, I'm in between, so I'm a steward and so on. So we live in the diverse valuation of nature, and that's diverse valuation of natures is stemmed from cultures. So that's create the cultures. So because we think our individual action, our individual beliefs will affect our community, and our community will create a very cohesive systemic valuations to nature in nation, and globally. So these are the where actually the ecological problems come from, which is the valuation, the values, the belief, the thinking. And that's why we need to reconnect with the nature. So this study demonstrates that the root of environmental crisis lies in our perspectives of or our worldview, specifically how we perceive, value and relate to nature. And therefore, addressing this root requires cultivation of ecocentric cultures that promote egalitarian and relational valuations of nature while dismantling anthropocentric views and practices. And then the first questions is, as I mentioned in the beginning, that so in what ways does intercultural communication help address the root of environmental crisis, which is valuations? So this is the answer, at least in my searching, in my expertise, in my end. So different cultures hold different worldviews and relationship with nature, ranging from anthropocentric to ecocentric perspectives. So where intercultural communication stands? So intercultural communication facilitates a dialogue around these differing beliefs and values, contributing to promotion of more ecocentric environmental discourses and policies. Such dialogue can help foster pro-environmental actions and challenge anthropocentric views and behaviors. So that's why this study is very interesting, 2004, from Stipe. Professor Stipe is one of the scholars of ecolinguistics. So Stipe mentioned that, well, actually, intercultural communication has dual roles. The first one is challenging the values behind distractions. Second, providing alternatives values from traditional sources. So when we do intercultural communication, when we do conversation with other cultures bring different values and different valuation to nature, attitude to nature, and us as ecological awareness scholars or persons, we can use this moment or this opportunity provided by intercultural communication with the diverse cultures. We can actually, in the moment of conversation, we can insert the mission of, okay, we need to address this problem. Why? This problem of environmentalism, environmental crisis, because of this. And this problem come from the cultures of littering, for example, cultures of people who are throwing rubbish everywhere, who are not very aware of environment. So we are, as scholars, as a person who are really keen into intercultural communication and environmentalism, we need to step in the conversation to infuse the environmental agenda and also challenge their other kind of our friends or our community who have different values, that the values is actually destructive to the environment. And we, in this moment of conversation, we can challenge that. So the first one is like a dialogue is a very critical, and it is a very good space for us to really infuse the agenda of environmentalism in the intercultural communication setting. And this is where this study is actually, I want to demonstrate to you all that this study is a very interesting, and this is come from Emil and their friends. And look at this. These are the individual spheres of influence. So how individual actions have the greatest effect when they influence broader system. Can you see this clearly, right? From the private and personal action to the social network, to organizational, to public and cultural. You can see that there is indication of intercultural setting there. First, learn. Second, persuade. Support others. Teach. Persuade is a kind of intercultural communication, right? Persuading others and so on. And then there is also share ideas, which is in the organizational level of environmental movement or action that the person can do. And then in public, we can do voting, protests. And then in cultural, we can share the stories. We can change the stories of environmental discourses that are not, that are affected our environment, that are destructive to our environment. So these are the personal action, our individual action that we can do, that every single of us can do in terms of intercultural communication. For example, in private and personal, we can learn how to have a dialogue and how to create a very good dialogue about environment, how can we challenge other views, yeah, when we have intercultural communication dialogue related to environment. How can we deal with person who are different views? How can we adjust, or how can we do anything? We can learn anything about intercultural communication in relation to environment. That's in private and personal. In social and network, we can persuade others to, well, we do conversation about environment with other cultures, with different cultures. We can persuade them, okay, this is, if you do this, you can do, this is the consequences. If you are not doing this, this is consequences. We can persuade our friends, our community, when we are doing intercultural communications. So I do understand that it is very difficult to swing the pendulum of perspectives, especially for those people who are loath to even accept the idea of environmentalism. We can discuss that later, because environmental movement has a lot of challenges, so have a lot of problems. This is anti-mainstream. I know that a lot of people do not go into this environmentalism because it is not fancy topic actually. Because people think that, okay, in terms of language education or linguistic and so on, let's go into like maybe EMI or maybe other more global Englishes and so on, is okay. But we doing this kind of environmentalism intersections with intercultural communication or in language education, we have value to offer. We have a mission, and that need to be strengthened for us to really advocate our environment, but at the same time, we build intercultural communication field. So we can have a dual goals in this case, building environmentalism, saving our Mother Earth, and also actually growing our field of environmental intercultural communication to grow. Because there is a skepticism, where is actually the position of intercultural communication in support of environmental problems? That's also questions goes to the language education in general. So where have you been, language education? Have you be able to address these problems? Because addressing environmental problems requires coordinated action across disciplines and across sectors. The job of addressing environmental problems cannot be solely in the hands of science education or in the sense on science. Arts, humanities, social sciences, whatever your background, politicians, teachers, researchers, all of us stand in one earth. all of us breathe the same air. So that's why we are having the same responsibility despite, regardless of our background. So that's why we need to really infuse environmentalism in any aspect of the fields of research or knowledge fields, such as intercultural communication and language education. So one of the way to really address environmental problems is in terms of the valuation, right? In terms of our awareness, our knowledge, and our beliefs. So this is like where eco-critical awareness comes in. What is eco-critical awareness? So it is a conscious, critical understanding of the complex relationship between humans and the natural environment, recognizing how narratives, ideologies, and discourses shape our attitudes towards nature, and how these attitudes influence environmental action and ethics. Meaning that we have the awareness, consciousness, and understanding of, okay, we are humans. We have relationship with the natural environments, and we should comprehend what are the narratives, ideologies, and discourses that actually destructive to the environment and also very positive or supportive for the environment. We need to have that awareness, consciousness, and critical understanding for that. And what are the current environmental movement in intercultural communication field that has aimed to build intercultural eco-critical awareness? How far I see intercultural communication has already played a part in addressing environmental problems through building eco-critical awareness. So this is it. I found this like 3 days ago, which is a very good movement. This is actually the ecological turn, where the cultural communication first step in to address environmental problems. There is no saying for the late, okay, it's fine, it's late, but it's better than nothing. So it's a very good movement for our field of intercultural communication. I dig into this journal because this is like colorful papers in spatial issue, right? And then the abstract deadline is 1st September 2024, and the manuscript deadline is like 1st March 2025. And I dig into this kind of journal. Okay, I did not find it yet. So meaning that they are in the process of publishing it. So hello guys, if you are really into this kind of new field of niche area of study, you can come to this journal and wait for the publications of these articles because they are waiting for that. And this is a very good movement for this journal or this spatial issue. Let's have a look what they think. This first ecological turn in intercultural communication, these are the questions that they are really addressing and bridging environmentalisms with intercultural communication. The first one is like, how are the notion and discourses about culture, identity, community, and blah, blah, blah. You can read it. And then even like, how can the study of interculturality and ecology benefit from and contribute to the other lines of decolonial scholarship, environmental justice, and so on. So these are very critical questions that are answered by the publications of that journal. So we can wait that, and then we can read that. And this question is also very good for us to really discuss. And even this question also can be inspired by your research question or maybe your dissertations, your students, and so on. So let's really together, hand in hand, address environmental problems through this field of intercultural communication. It is started already by these 3 wonderful scholars. And what about in practice? So I found this kind of organization, which is very good. So these organizations did a project called Green Interculturality, the natural environment as a powerful tool to promote cultural identity and facilitate social integrations. You can see this, you can go into this website. They provide a very good and complete information about this project, including including this one, this is one of the product of the project, which is promoting migrant inclusion through environmental awareness and the development of eco-friendly educational materials for adult trainers. So they developed language skills of migrant, and at the same time, developing their environmental awareness. So language skills, increasing their networking, and also environmental context, environmental knowledge, and also they develop eco-friendly educational materials for this migrant. So this is a very good project. And there is also handbook for this. So you can go in and then actually dive in this kind of project. And maybe this is can also adaptable to your context. And then how can we foster student eco-critical awareness in intercultural communication setting within the context of language educations? So we already see that there is actually connections between intercultural communication and environmentalism and eco-critical awareness. Because eco-critical awareness, when we do intercultural communication activities, we aware that, okay, we have kind of relationship with nature and with the natural environment. We carry a responsibility as a steward, and that's why when we do intercultural communication, when we do communications about something with the different cultures, we bring that mission into conversation, into the discourse. So that's why that's the connections is there. And then how these connections bring or brought into the language education. So first thing first, I would like to address, or I would like to show or demonstrate this kind of article, which is a very good article to start with, relationship between language education or language teaching with environmentalism. So language teaching is not exempt from the responsibility of education more broadly. Again, we have the responsibility and potential to address global issues, including environmental crisis. So when in our language education, we have ubiquitous teaching materials, right? We can insert materials, we can use a lot of materials about environment that can be a place, that can be a space for us to have conversations, different cultures and so on about this environment. So that's why we have and we can actually integrate this in our language education. And how we integrate that, what are the strategies? So I kind of shared my personal strategies that are already been into this kind of studies and this kind of setting. The first strategies, we need to integrate eco-cultural texts from diverse cultures. So incorporating literature, media, narratives from various cultural backgrounds that explore human nature relationships can help students recognize different ecological worldviews. Texts that reflects indigenous knowledge, post-colonial environmental struggles, global ecological crisis invite learners to critically engage with both environmental and cultural dimensions. So for example, you can teach folk tales, poetry, essays from American, Asian, Latin American contexts that emphasize harmony with nature or environmental justice. So this is the first strategy that you can do. And I have published article from Oxford University and Oxford University Press, which is like this year. This article called Feeling Closer to Nature Through Eco-Critical English Instructions. So I use this kind of text. So 3 texts. The first one is text that has spiritual nature content, yeah, which fits with the kind of context in Indonesia. Indonesia is a multicultural country. We have diverse religious kind of groups, diverse beliefs, diverse cultures, and we have like 500 languages, local languages. We are separated by 70,000 islands, 17,000 islands. Could you imagine how diverse and how multilingual our country is? And that's why this is a very good space and very good case or platform for us to really can go together into these conversations about nature. And then spirituality is matters there, because if you think that animals, plants, and natural environment are spiritual being. They are actually live. They are actually breathe. They are actually a being. Then we recognize them or acknowledge them that, oh, they are a part of us. They are actually the same as us. So that awareness are critical to really evoke the feeling of closer to nature or nature connectedness. So the stronger you are feeling to the natural environment is actually because of you think that, okay, these animals and plants are alive, they breathe, they need attention, and so on and so forth. And the second strategy is promote a dialogue on environmental values across cultures. So you can facilitate classroom discussions or intercultural exchanges such as virtual projects or language partner collaborations where students share and compare environmental beliefs and practices, allows them to explore how culture shapes ecological attitudes. So these dialogues foster both intercultural competence and ecological sensitivity. For example, you conduct an activity where students from different countries discussing sustainable practices or environmental rituals in their communities. Right now online, this is possible. You can invite your international students to have conversations about their environmental problems in their home. For example, in this conversation from different cultures, different nations, different countries, you can learn a lot how indigenous knowledge applied, how their cultural approach to environmental problems. So this is a very good way of doing environmentalism in intercultural setting in language teaching or in language education. So this is what I do. Again, dialogues is critical. So that's why, and this is the heart of intercultural communication. So this is my recent article, book chapter, which is cultivating ecocentrism views through eco-critical discussions on local environmental issues in English lessons. So what we do here. So they are doing conversations about environment. Yeah, they are from different cultures. They are from different regions across Indonesia, but they are in one of our department. They are the students in our department, and they discuss about environmental problems across their regions with their local context, with their local problems. So we connect this locality with the global issues such as climate change. So what is the problems of climate change globally, and then how it affect or how it is situated within your context. So we use local approach when it comes to have eco-critical discussions about environmental problems. So this actually, the result is very interesting that they have ecological worldviews. So they develop that the worldviews that, okay, now I understand that we actually a part of the nature, and then these problems is also not happening globally, but also in my environment. So they have connections with their natural environment across their region and connected to the global world. So this interconnections thinking, system thinking is essential actually, so that we know that environmental problems are actually connected. What we do here about environment will affect other environment in other country. So next, I would like to share to you, this is one of the article that I published from TESOL Journal. And this article is called Eco-ELT for Writing Descriptive Text about Animals and Plants, and how this foster writing skills and nature empathy. So this is academic writing, but where is the dialogues comes in, eco-critical dialogue comes in. So typically academic writing about nature, they can use, okay, nature, you describe nature, okay, nature is like these animals, oh, this is the color of animals, the shape of animal, what they, and then what they are, what they eat, what is the habitat, and so on. This is different. So what I do is in this eco-critical writing about descriptive, about academic writing on nature, is that I ask students to go to nature, whether it is the park or whether it is in their garden or a park nearby the campus, and then they need to took a picture of the nature, such as one animal and plant that are this nature, that thing that, okay, this nature is got me attention, and this nature is like, maybe in their perspective, that this nature is suffering and so on, abandoned and so on. And what after they are taking a picture, what they do is that they observe the environment nearby the animal and plants, taking a picture, and then they come back to the class. After they come back to the class, they reflect themselves. They have eco-critical dialogue within themselves. So they need to position themselves as an animal or a plant they took. And then they need to voice out as if that they are the animal and plant. So what they see, what they hear, what they know, and then what they smell. Oh, for example, one of my students wrote about ant, yeah, and then they said, oh, this is a giant human, try to step in me, and then like, okay, one is abandoned cat, abandoned animals, for example, or abandoned this kind of plants. They're not watering me. They do not watering me. They do not care of me. So they position as an animals and plants. So what is the result? They develop their empathy to nature. They feel the nature as if that they are the nature, what is going on, what is happening to them. So this is very critical to really evoke or ignite the awareness of environment through eco-critical writing. So this is where the novelty of this article, so that it is accepted, although it is accepted like 1.5 year and has 8 reviewers. So 8 reviewers, pre-round, but I'm so proud of this project and article. So the third strategy is implement project-based and experiential learning. I would like to quick because this is going to end. So project-based, such as intercultural eco campaigns, sustainability theme presentations, environmental storytelling, enable students to apply language skills, engaging critically with both cultural and ecological content. For example, you can create a digital magazine or video project where students share how their culture celebrates nature and promotes sustainability. So could you imagine that there will be a diverse videos from students demonstrate their cultures and explain and elaborate how their culture celebrates nature, and then how the cultures like appreciate nature and promote sustainability. And this is where intercultural communications and intercultural communication activities comes in the language education practices. And this is what we did in our university. We have international community engagement activities. So where students from various countries collaborated to address environmental and social challenges within the local communities. So they lived and worked with the communities for a minimum 2 weeks, during which they developed solutions to identify problems of the community. And this solution and their impacts were then presented to the public, particularly targeting university students. So this is what is happening. So we collaborated with the Singapore Polytechnics University, Polytechnic in Singapore, and they came to Indonesia, came to the university. In my university, we did community engagement activities. They live 2 weeks, 3 weeks with the community to address environmental problems. They dialogues with the communities to ask about environmental problems there. The cultures of the communities is there. What are the cultures that are destructive to the environment? So they actually lived with the community. This is a very good space for the students to see real example and to engage with the community, because sometimes university students are detached with the community. So that's why we need to bring in together to really chatter this kind of intercultural communication comes in with a community-based activity. And number 4, what are the strategies? Encourage creative multilingual eco-expressions. For example, language education offers opportunities, for students to express ecological ideas in multiple languages and forms, such as essays, storytelling, drama, visual art, allowing learners to draw on their cultural identities and linguistic repertoires, supports meaningful engagement and personal connection to the environmental issues. So, for example, students write bilingual poems, or eco letters to nature using metaphors and symbols from their cultural traditions. So this is what I did, and I'm happy that Arif Bulan, one of my co-author, and we did project about this, and this project is published by this books, which is maybe you can still ongoing publication for this book. This project calls Drama in Climate Change, leveraging drama for climate justice in the EFL classrooms. So this is what we did. So this area, I'm not mentioning the area, but this area is like a lot of environmental problems such as illegal logging and so on. So youth actually are concerns. So high school students concerned with kind of environmental problems happening in their environment, in their region. Because remember, Indonesia has a lot of islands, 17,000 islands across Indonesia. Imagine how huge Indonesia is. And that comes environmental problems specifically to each island. So one of the environmental problems is like illegal logging and so on, cutting trees and so on. So youth need to voice out this concern, their concerns about environmental problems, and through what kind of artistic avenue that they can use, which is drama. So we did 5 weeks drama about environment, especially climate change. They need to observe climate change problems related to their environment, their problems of environment, and then they create they make a script for a drama about environmental problems, and then they perform it in the form of a public. And then they use the stage, which is the stage is actually the environment itself. You can see that they even bring props such as sickle or a chainsaw. So these 5 weeks is activities about drama in climate change shaped their connections to the nature, and then they shape their eco-critical thinking with the nature. So this is a very good project that you can adapt in your context. And then the second one is using the approach of ecomusicology. So this is a very good approach on using music. If you like songs, if you like music, and you like environment. So we can bridge into the approach of ecomusicology. So when we discuss environment using art-based, such as songs about environment, like Earth Song were sang by Justin Bieber and so on. So a lot of songs about environment sang by artists, global artists, and these songs can be a platform, can be a teaching material for us to really dig into issue of environment and have conversation with it. And we discuss about the musicians, and from the music artifacts, from the music actions, from the music in actions. You can see the questions of discussions here. And this is the result of my article about this. And the last one is promoting eco-critical awareness among language teachers and develop the knowledge and skill facilitating eco-critical dialogues in language classroom. So I coined the term is eco-critical intercultural literacy. So this is the term that I made. So it is the knowledge, it is a skills for facilitating eco-critical intercultural dialogues in language classrooms. So teachers play an important or vital role in facilitating intercultural communication take place in the classroom. So that's why teachers need to have the knowledge, need to have the awareness themselves. First, they also need to have the skills in facilitating this eco-critical intercultural dialogue. So that's why we need to create a TPD programs, teacher professional development programs, that actually facilitate and train teachers how to perform intercultural communication or integrate intercultural communication with environmentalism in language education. Because again, research shows us, and my experiences show us, that teachers do not yet equipped with the knowledge and actually skills about environment in English language teaching or in language education in general, especially in intercultural communication. So that's why we need to train teachers themselves too. So that's the fifth strategy, and that's the last. So in conclusion, this is my journal. In conclusion, intercultural communication has dual roles in addressing environmental crisis. First, challenging and addressing the values behind ecological crisis. Second, providing alternative ecocentric values, because the dominant values of causing environmental crisis are anthropocentric values. So when we do intercultural communication setting, so we need to provide alternative, which is ecocentric values, relational values, or indigenous values that we can bring into our intercultural communication activities. And the second one, ecocritical awareness is essential to build among language learners, as it helps them have conscious critical understanding of the complex relationship between humans and the natural environment, will help them recognize how narratives, ideologies, and discourses shape their attitudes with nature, and how these attitudes influence their and societal environmental action and ethics. The last one, developing ecocritical awareness in language classroom can take various forms, such as integrating ecocultural texts from diverse cultures, employing ecocritical dialogue methods, implementing project-based and experiential learning, facilitating spaces for creative multilingual eco-expressions, and enhancing language teachers' ecocritical intercultural literacy. So let's prove to the world that our intercultural communication field has the commitment and will continuously participate in the local, national, and global environmental sustainability. I repeat, let's prove to the world that our intercultural communication field has the commitment and will continuously participate in the local, national, and global environmental sustainability. Let's take action now. Let's save our Earth. I thank you, everyone. Yeah, that's all,
Thank
Nicole.
you. Thank you so much, Dr. Saiful. You have given us so much to think on, and I love the connection between intercultural communication and environmental education. There really is. We did have some questions, but I think some of those questions had been answered right when you were talking about the strategies. So I encourage you, Dr. Saiful, if you would, do you have an email that maybe you could post, so that I noticed in the chat some people are studying and researching these intersections. And I think that would be a great way to, again, this is the whole point that you're talking about, starting dialogue and being able to talk amongst different cultures and together find ways to solve this.
Yeah, so this is like